Welcome to your daily dose of sci-fi adventures. New stories dropped every single day. Smash that subscribe button and ring the to help us reach 1,000 subscribers and unlock even more epic cosmic tales. The twin suns of Vespera Prime were setting, painting the horizon in streaks of molten gold and bruised purple. Lieutenant Caleb Ryder trudged along the perimeter corridor of Echo Station, his boots thudding against the metal grating. The evening chill here was nothing like Earth's an otherworldly cold that seeped into his bones, carrying with it the scent of alien flora and rusting machinery. Echo Station stood sentinel on the planet's frigid northern desert, a cluster of interconnected modules burrowed into crimson sands. Its purpose was simple: research. But project directives were classified, limited strictly to seismic readings and atmospheric sampling. Extraterrestrial life, if encountered, was to be reported and contained, ideally eradicated. Caleb knew the orders by rote, and yet he felt uneasy every time he thought of them. He paused at the bulkhead door leading to the western turbine hall. The low hum of the fusion reactors thrummed through the steel walls, a reminder that even here, energy was life's lifeblood. He glanced at his datapad, routine scan complete, all systems nominal. The monitoring drones patrolled overhead, their ultraviolet sensors glowing softly. He tapped a finger against his helmet visor, adjusting the night vision filter. A soft crack echoed down the corridor, light-footed, almost feline. Caleb's hand slid to the plasma pistol at his belt. "Identify yourself," he called. Voice steady despite the thrum of adrenaline in his chest. No response. Another soft shift, closer. This time, he edged forward, weapon raised but not aimed. Halfway down the corridor, he saw her reflection in the armored viewport glass, pale, mottled skin with veins of violet, eyes black as obsidian orbs, unblinkingly curious. She crouched behind a stack of supply crates, honey blonde hair drifting. As if underwater, Caleb froze. Alarm bells should have sounded, yet something about her unguarded posture, frail, trembling, made him hesitate. "Come out slowly," he ordered. "I'm not here to hurt you." Her eyes flicked upward. For a heartbeat, she vanished, the light play of her shifting pigments disguising her in the gloom, then reappeared. She rose, slender limbs elongating. As she unfolded, her uniform was fragmentary, nothing like the standard issue jumpsuits of the Directorate. It clung in patches, revealing musculature that rippled like a dancer's. Under her iridescent skin, Caleb swallowed. Protocol screamed at him to fire, to neutralize. But all he felt was wonder and pity. "Do you understand me?" he asked, voice softer. "Are you in pain?" She cocked her head. Her throat worked, as though she weighed his words. Then, unmistakably, she whispered a single word in a tongue that tasted of bells and broken glass: "Run." A roar shuddered through the corridor. Behind him, instinct flared. He whirled, raising his pistol. A hulking shape lunged out of the shadows, a viper-dragon hybrid, scales scorched by radioactive sands, maw dripping acidic saliva. Its 8 legs hit the grating with brutal force, and it fixed its yellow eyes on the intruders. Caleb squeezed the trigger. A streak of violet-blue plasma seared through the air, but the creature twisted aside, jaws snapping at empty space. It charged. He darted back, heart pounding, as the beast's claws gouged the metal. "Over here," the girl cried, voice now urgent in his mind as well as his ears. She darted past him toward a service hatch in the floor. Caleb hesitated only a moment before following. She kicked the latch free, dropped down, and he vaulted after her. The hatch slammed shut above them. They dropped 5 meters into a chamber of tangled pipes, the smell of ozone and burned circuitry stinging Caleb's nostrils. He rolled, pistol extended, scanning for the creature. Silence. "Are you hurt?" he asked, helping her sit against a coolant pipe. Her breathing was rapid, but she seemed intact apart from bruises on her shoulders where metal ribs protruded from the wall. She shook her head, then pressed her hand to her midriff. A faint glow pulsed beneath her skin. Caleb crouched beside her, cautious. "Let me help." Her head snapped up, eyes blazing. "No." Fear and defiance warred in her expression. She shook free of his grip, rolling to her feet. She backed against the far wall, crouching low, fingers splayed. Caleb's pulse Warner sputtered tachyonic readings off the charts. He watched, transfixed, as her veins flared with azure light. Then, with a soft hum, a surge of energy coalesced. In the air before her palm, the plasma pistol felt weightless in his hand as he lowered it. A crackling beam lanced out, striking the far wall. The concrete panel exploded, revealing daylight from a collapsed tunnel. The beast's roar echoed. Faintly above, the tunnel lit up in a crescendo of violet sparks, and the dragon slid backward. Charred and smoking, Caleb exhaled. The girl's power held the creature at bay like a force field. She let the energy dissipate, shoulders shaking. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you help me?" He offered a hand, unarmed. "Because you saved me too, and because you're more than a specimen." He stood slowly. "What's your name?" She hesitated, gaze darting to the fractured ceiling. Finally, she spoke, voice soft as dusk. "Nara." Caleb smiled, relief and awe mingling. "I'm Caleb Ryder. We need to get you to safety away from here. That creature won't give up." Nara nodded, gathering what remained of her uniform. Into trembling fists, she followed him deeper into the maintenance corridors, where emergency lights flickered red. The station's automated voice echoed, "Warning. Reactor instability detected. Evacuation recommended." A tremor rattled the walls. Caleb steadied himself against a pipe. That reactor meltdown must have driven the beast out, or whoever set it loose. He looked at Nara, whose eyes glimmered in the emergency glow. "Either way, we won't make it back up top. I know a hidden access shaft." She gave a small, determined nod. As they rounded a corner, her hand brushed his arm, tentative, seeking reassurance. Caleb felt a surge of protectiveness he couldn't explain. "I'm not going to let anything happen to you," he vowed. They reached an unmarked door. Caleb, keyed in a sequence only the night crew memorized. The door hissed open, revealing a narrow shaft leading upward. He offered Nara the lead. She paused, eyes meeting his. Then, with fluid grace, she ascended first, Caleb close behind. Above, the corridor was worse for wear. Scorch marks, twisted struts, and a faint haze of plasma residue. Caleb flicked on his helmet light. Sparks jumped from exposed conduits overhead. "Watch your step," he warned. Nara moved like a dancer through the wreckage, while Caleb carried lingering fractures of memory, his childhood in Earth's overstretched colonies. The day he joined the Enforcers to protect his sister, the guilt that haunted him for every life he'd taken. He glanced at Nara's skin luminescent in the gloom and understood that every order he'd followed so far would be wrong if they harmed her. They reached the main hangar door when the Viper dragons' roar split the air again, closer this time. The hatch was sealed by a manual crank, no time for lengthy procedures. Caleb pulled her toward an escape pod nestled in its cradle. "In here," he barked. Fumbling with the release lever, the hatch swung open, and they tumbled inside. With one smooth motion, Caleb hit the launch sequence. Alarms blared as the pod bolted free from the station's hull. Outside the viewport, Echo Station's lights glared like distant beacons, and the Viper dragon's dark form reared on the hangar floor. Caleb exhaled. Slumping against the console, Nara slid down to the floor, hugging her knees. Silence reclaimed them, broken only by the pod's engines and their ragged breathing. "Why did you do it?" she asked at last, voice barely above a whisper. He closed his eyes. "Because I couldn't do otherwise. You're not a weapon. You're not a pet. You're a person. And you deserve to live." Nara's lips curved in a faint, grateful smile. She unfolded and moved to sit beside him, curling up in his lap. Her head rested against his chest, weight feather light. "Thank you, Caleb Ryder," she murmured. Outside, the scarlet sands of Vespera Prime stretched toward the horizon. The pod's thrusters flared as it adjusted course for the nearest safe haven. And in that borrowed moment of peace, Caleb realized that everything had changed. An outpost had been lost, but something infinitely more precious had been found, and so began their journey. The escape pod shuddered against the docking clamps of Horizon Station. The derelict freighter-turned refugee haven hunkered in geosynchronous orbit above Vespera Prime. Through the narrow viewport, Caleb could see tangled antennae and half-lit corridors, the station's patchwork modules strung together like cosmic detritus. But inside, its battered halls thrummed with life, refugees, smugglers, exiled scientists, anyone who'd slipped through the Directorate's net. A hiss of airlock. Pressure greeted them as the pod doors slid open. Two figures stood in the chamber, Rora, the station's medical android, and Dr. Marisol Chen, a xenobiologist with sandy curls escaping her lab coat. Both flinched at the sight of Nera, her iridescent skin glowing softly beneath the fluorescent lights, but neither raised weapons. Rora, Doctor, Caleb greeted, half relieved. We need immediate medical evaluation for her and discretion, he added under his breath. The Directorate won't tolerate a live alien specimen on Horizon. Dr. Chen's golden brown eyes flickered to Nera. Lieutenant Ryder, you saved her life. I owe you both my thanks. She extended a gloved hand to Nera, careful, respectful. May I examine your wounds? Nera recoiled at first, then nodded. She stepped forward, every movement graceful, wary. Aurora's optical sensors glowed as she activated a non-invasive scanner. Biothermal waves, tachyonic fluctuations, septic patterns. Caleb knelt at Nera's side, offering silent support. You're stronger than you know, Dr. Chen murmured, tracing the scanner's readout. Her physiology, remarkable. The way she channeled tachyonic plasma, unprecedented. She turned to Caleb. With the right approach, we can learn how to help her control it, and how to shield her from the Directorate's pursuit. Nera's obsidian eyes narrowed. I am not a test subject, she said in accented common. Her voice was soft but firm. She broke off, as if unsure how to finish. Caleb placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. We'll only do what helps you, he promised. If you want me to stop, I will. Rora's synthesized voice chimed. Subject requires nourishment and rest. Neurological activity elevated. Recommend memory debrief to assess species origin and language matrix. Nera's gaze flickered between Aurora and Marisol. My name, Nera Valleys, she said finally. I fled the Exodus fleet. She shivered, recalling fragments of silver starships burning against black skies. My people, hunted. Her tone quavered. I have nowhere else. Silence settled. Caleb's heart clenched. Then this station is your refuge, he said. I'm with you. Dr. Chen offered a small smile. You have allies here. She tapped her datapad, overriding quarantine protocols. We'll set up a private suite in the medbay annex. Aurora, prepare it. As Aurora glided away, Caleb and Nera followed Marisol through winding corridors to a small chamber lined with padded walls and soft light. Inside, a bunk, a wash unit, a data terminal. We'll start with simple things, Marisol said. Food, rest, and conversation if you're willing. Nera sank onto the bunk. Thank you. Her voice was so quiet Caleb almost missed it. He settled on the edge of the bed. Tell me about your fleet, he urged gently. For hours, Nera spoke in staccato bursts. The colony Ark Hope's light, packed with refugees fleeing a galactic war. The Council warships that betrayed them. The impossible sacrifice as municipalities fell one by one under a crystal plague. The exodus into uncharted space, chased by twin sons of fire. Caleb listened, haunted by her descriptions of star lanes, tainted with ghost ships and drifting corpses. Marisol left them alone when Nera's eyes grew heavy. Aurora quietly dimmed the lights as Nera drifted to sleep. Caleb watched her forehead relax. Her glowing veins returned to a soft lull. That night, he sent a brief encrypted message to his contact in the Horizon Security Division. One alien asset on board, under watch, maintain cover. No reply either. Thanks to bureaucracy or fear, dawn's pale light found Caleb in the station marketplace, where vendors hawked crusted rations, contraband fuel cells, and antique Earth trinkets. He moved through the crowd, eyes peeled for Directorate agents or patrol drones. His destination, the holosuit, where Horizon's unofficial intelligence network codenamed the Lattice gathered rumors. Inside a dim chamber, a cluster of conspirators huddled around a flickering holoprojector. The hologram depicted a massive warship, the ISS Dominion, rumored flagship of the Directorate's pursuit fleet. Next to it floated a smaller vessel, unregistered, emblazoned with the crest of the Council of Sentience. A weary informant named Rook leaned forward. The Dominion's hunting survivors of the Exodus, especially the one they call the Tachyon girl. They think her powers could tip the war, He tapped the holomap. "We have coordinates of a jump gate here, in the Cooper belt of the Vega system. If Nera can reach it, she might lose them in hyperspace drift." Caleb absorbed the data. "How secure?" he asked. "How long until the Dominion arrives?" Rook's shoulders tensed. "Less than 48 hours. They've got long range. Tachyon sensors tuned to a spike in her signature. They'll find her unless she learns to mask it." Caleb clenched his jaw. "Then we move fast." He thanked the lattice cell and slipped back into the corridors. By midday, Nera was awake, pacing the medbay suite with restless energy. Caleb brought in trays of nutrient gel and fresh water. "Here," he said, setting the trays on a small table. "You need strength for what's next." She paused, staring at the gel's viscous sheen. Then, with trembling grace, she picked up the spoon and tasted. Her eyes widened in surprise. "It tastes like auroral nectar," she whispered. Caleb grinned. "Well, good enough for me." He hesitated, voice soft. "I spoke with some people who can help you reach safety. But it means leaving Horizon Station, soon on a smuggler's ship bound for Vega." Nera's gaze hardened. "I will not be sold back to the Directorate." Her voice grew fierce. "I trust you." He nodded. "I promise, I'll be with you every step." Marisol appeared at the doorway. "Your scanners show increased tachyonic resonance whenever you're stressed or tired. We might be able to teach you to dampen it, even cloak it." She studied Nera closely. "But you have to choose. Do you want to fight your power or embrace it?" Nera's shoulders slumped. "I don't know." She looked to Caleb. "I never wanted these powers. They came with my birth from the tachyon wells on my home world. They are a curse." Caleb knelt before her. "Your power is who you are. It can keep you alive. And you're not alone." He reached out, brushing a strand of glowing hair behind her ear. "We'll figure it out together." Nera's obsidian eyes glistened. She nodded slowly. For the first time, the fear receded, replaced by determination. "Then I will learn," she declared. "I will control the storm within me." As the three of them stood in the soft glow of Horizon's medbay annex, an unspoken alliance formed. Human, android, and alien, all bound by trust, hope, and the fragile promise of freedom. Beyond the portholes, the freighter's engines thrummed, ready to carry them into the darkness of contested space and toward a destiny only they could shape together. The dim glow of Horizon Station's training bay pulsed in time with Nera's heartbeat. Calibrated spherical drones hovered at eye level, emitting faint tachyonic fields designed to simulate the signature of a Dominion patrol ship. Across the padded floor, Dr. Marisol Chen monitored readouts on her datapad. While Aurora's optical sensors tracked Nera's every movement, Caleb Ryder stood behind Nera, arms crossed against the hum of hidden machinery. He watched as she extended her hands, palms outward, and summoned a wavering halo of blue-white energy. The field flickered, then snapped back into the projector drone's loops. Nera's brow furrowed. "Good," Marisol encouraged. "You held the cloak for 10 seconds. Now try shifting your focus inward. Imagine the energy flowing through you like water. Don't fight it, guide it." Nera inhaled deeply, closing her eyes. Her iridescent veins glowed brighter, but the halo steadied. She opened her eyes obsidian, pools reflecting the drone's soft light, and let the tachyon field collapse around her. Aurora chimed approval as the energy signature on the scanners flattened to background noise. Caleb exhaled, relief washing through him. "That's incredible, Nera. You're learning fast." She bit her lip. "But if I slip, they'll find me." He stepped forward and offered his hand. "Then we practice until you can't slip. I'll help." She blinked, then took his hand. For a moment, in that touch, she seemed less like an alien survivor and more like the frightened child she once was. One who needed a friend. Late that night, after drills and debriefings, Nera retreated to her suite. Caleb found her at the viewport, gazing out at Vespera Prime's rising silhouette, the red planet framed by a tangle of station modules. "Can't sleep?" he asked softly, leaning against the bulkhead. She shook her head. "So much I don't understand. About my power, my past." Her voice cracked. "My people called it the heart of the wells. It made us expand, reach for the stars, until it destroyed us." Caleb knelt beside her. "Maybe it can do more than destroy. You could spark new life if you learn to control it." She pressed, her palm to the glass, fingertips glowing faintly. I want to trust that, but I fear what I might become. He placed his hand over hers. You'll never become what you fear. Not while I'm here. A tremor shook the station. Lights flickered. The overhead alarm wailed. Horizon's corridors thundered with unseen boots. Caleb's eyes snapped open. Dirt patrols. They found the training bay moments later. Dr. Kellen's icy voice crackled over the station comm. This is Director Kellen of the Galactic Science Directorate. Stand down or we will use lethal force. Surrender the alien subject immediately. Marisol interfaced with a nearby panel. They've locked down the primary airlocks. Only the emergency cargo hatch remains. Caleb grabbed Nara by the shoulder. Come on. They burst into the maintenance corridor, heading for the freighter docks. Aurora hovered beside them. Doors sliding shut on pursuing security drones. A volley of stun bolts sizzled off the bulkheads. Caleb returned fire, forcing the drones to retreat into a side tunnel. By the time they reached Dock 17, a sleek cargo ship, the Starling's Light, idled at its berth. Its pilot, an ex-smuggler named Caro, stood on the ramp with a makeshift blaster at the ready. Climb aboard. Caro shouted. I've got 1 minute before they seal the bay. Nara hesitated at the threshold, gaze flicking between the red-jeweled planet below and the flashing Directorate frigates. Beyond the station's protective dome, Caleb offered his hand. I'm not leaving without you. She nodded, stepping into Caro's ship. Caleb and Marisol followed, Rora securing the hatch behind them. Caro hit the throttle. The dock walls tore past as the Starling's Light blasted through the station's external shutters into open space. Out in the void, alarms screamed. On the main screen, the silhouette of the ISS Dominion rotated into view, its warship prow bristling with tachyon. Disruptors, behind it, 2 escort frigates fanned out, sealing off the station's escape routes. Caro's fingers flew over the controls. They're powering tachyon sensors. They'll lock on your signal in 30 seconds. Nara slumped in the co-pilot's seat. What do we do? Caleb climbed into Caro's seat. We run. He keyed the comm. Caro, smash power to the aft shields and give her everything you've got. We'll saturate their sensors with decoys. Caro's grin was fierce. I live for this moment. She punched the ignition. The Starling's Light shuddered as power ripped to its ion engines. Nara closed her eyes, measured her breathing. Then, steel resolve in her voice, she whispered, ready, on the bridge. Marisol and Rora deployed a ring of tachyon flux beacons through the cargo bay airlock. The mineral salt canisters glowed and ejected into space, each beacon flaring. In sequence, the Starling's Light lurched forward, weaving between the station debris. Behind them, the Dominion's sensors locked onto the beacons instead of Nera's ship. The warship unleashed a sequence of high-energy pulses, vaporizing 3 decoys in blinding bursts. Caro yanked the helm sideways, sending the remaining beacons scattering in patterns that mimicked a craft's evasive maneuvers. Caleb turned to Nara. Now, can you send a burst strong enough to blind their sensors long enough for us to jump? Her lips parted in concentration. Hands rising, she drew a fractal pattern in the air. Her veins ignited, brighter than any star, and a wave of tachyon energy cascaded ahead of the ship in a halo of fractured light. The Dominion's scanners, overloaded, its targeting arrays flickering. Go, Caleb roared. Caro slammed the ship into hyperspace. The stars stretched into lines of brilliant white. For a moment, all was calm. When the Starling's Light dropped out of hyperspace, they found themselves floating in the Vega system's outer reaches. The distant jump gate glimmered like a silver spiderweb against the void. Beyond it, a dozen unregistered transports waited, their captains eager for a valuable passenger. Nara collapsed against Caleb's shoulder, exhaustion etched onto her luminous skin. He held her gently as Aurora performed a post-jump diagnostic, and Marisol tapped into the gate's control console. Caro let out a long breath. We lost them for now. She glanced at Nara. That was incredible. Nara closed her eyes. I nearly lost control, she admitted. But with you all guiding me, I didn't. Caleb kissed the top of her head. Together, he murmured, always together. Through the viewport, the Vega gate's energy swirled. Beyond it, Lay free to man the unknown. Nera stared at the portal, heart pounding. Soon she would step through and leave everything she'd ever known behind. But she would not be alone. As the starling's light drifted toward the gate, the unspoken truth settled between them. The next leap would take them not just across space, but to the core of the Dominion itself, the fate of her people and, perhaps, the galaxy rested on the secrets of her power and the unlikely allies who believed in her. And so, hand in hand, they prepared to face the storm beyond the plasma veil. The Vega jump gates' bristling rings of cobalt energy hummed against the vacuum, casting ghostly light into the cockpit of the Starling's light. Caro nudged the throttles forward, guiding the ship toward the swirling gateway. Beyond, in the station's hidden enclave of smugglers and refugees, anxious eyes tracked their approach on grainy holoscreens. Inside, tension crackled. Nera perched on the edge of her seat, hair aflame with residual tachyon glow. Caleb hovered beside her, hands steady on her shoulder. Dr. Chen stood at a discreet distance, datapad in hand, while Aurora's optical sensors rotated between the gate and the outbound void. Once we clear the gate, Caro said, voice low, we're in uncharted star lanes. The Dominion won't risk a pursuit that far from known hyperspace lanes, at least not without confirmation you survived the jump. Nera drew a shuddering breath. I can't hide forever, she whispered. They'll keep searching. Caleb met her gaze. Then we make them fear looking. He turned to Dr. Chen. Marisol, can we amplify her cloak? Maybe even project a fake signature? Marisol's brow furrowed as she tapped her datapad. With more power we could create an echo, make them chase ghost ships along a different route. But it would take time and a secure facility. Not out here in Caro's cockpit. Nera's eyes narrowed. I know a place, she said softly, surprising them all. My people before the Exodus hid our greatest secrets in the ruins of Calran. It's a dead moon orbiting Antera 4. No directorate scans reach it. We used it as a sanctuary. Silence fell. Caleb's heart pounded. How do we get there? She swallowed. We avoid the main hyperspace lanes. We go through the Sable Corridor, harder to navigate, but less patrolled. She turned to Caro. Can you handle the astrogation? The smuggler cracked her knuckles. I live for routes that scare everyone else. Moments later, the Starling's light surged into the jump gate. Turquoise arcs tore apart space around them, and stars streaked into impossible lines. Alarm lights flickered as the ship's systems held their breath. Then, with a gentle lurch, they emerged in a starless stretch of nebular mists, gold, silent, and utterly alone. Caro exhaled. Welcome to the Sable Corridor. The expanse beyond the viewport was darker than any void Caleb had seen. Ashen clouds of dust and gas, occasional streaks of ionized currents. Navigation lights blinked on the control panels, warning of unstable gravimetric eddies. This route, Nera said, voice steady, is littered with wrecks of ships that lost their bearings. But the Eldar, my people's ancestors, mapped safe passages. I'll guide you. Aurora interfaced with the navigation console, overlaying Nera's star charts onto Caro's helm display. Caleb watched as the model shifted, plotting a tortuous path through the swirling mists and eddies. Hours passed in near silence. The only sounds were Caro's steady breathing, the soft hum of the life support, and Nera's internal chant, a low, tonal cadence that seemed to resonate with the ship's hull, guiding it through gravitational turbulence. Marisol checked her scanner's readings at intervals. You're doing it, she said softly to Nera. We're ahead of the Dominion net by at least 3 hours. Nera offered a thin smile. If I hold focus. Sweat beaded at her temples, and her veins shimmered with exhausted energy. Caleb kept a steadying hand on her forearm. Lean on me. His voice was a promise and a lifeline. As they neared Antera 4, the asteroid belts around the planet resolved into a jagged halo. Through a gap in the debris, the moon Calran emerged, a pale orb scarred by ancient impacts, ringed by ruined spires that once shone with living crystal. What's left of the aqueducts, Nera murmured. They carried the Tachyon well's power to the fortress temple. Now it's silent. Caro reduced speed. The ship drifted among crumbling pillars and shattered megastructures. Sensors registered no energy signatures, no life, no patrols. Only echoes of a lost civilization. Caleb gripped Nera's hand. We'll land in the central basin, where the old portal lies. He glanced at Dr. Chen. Keep an eye on her. Marisol nodded, concern softening her features. Just rest. Nera, you've earned it. They guided the starlings light down through the basin's fractured floor. Dust plumes billowed as grav plumes kicked in. At last, the ship settled among broken pillars and crystal shards. Nera slid from her seat, legs trembling. She touched a fractured spire, etched with runes that pulsed with latent power at her touch. I haven't been back in centuries. Caleb wrapped an arm around her shoulders. You're home now. She closed her eyes, letting the ancient energy whisper through her. The ground thrummed, responding to her presence. Sparks of tachyon. Light danced across the ruins, bathing the chamber in soft luminescence. Marisol knelt beside an embedded holographic terminal, cracked, but functional, with careful scans. She coaxed it to life. A three-dimensional map blossomed in midair, concentric circles delineating sanctum wards, hidden vaults, and the central heart of the wells. This is incredible, she breathed. These archives, knowledge your people lost. Nera watched. The hologram, tears brimming. My ancestors, they created this place to protect our power. They feared its misuse. Caleb squeezed her hand. And now it can protect you. Suddenly, the terminal flickered. An intrusion. Rora world, sensors ablaze. External tachyon signature detected. Smaller ship entering atmosphere. Nera's chest tightened. The Dominion. Caro's eyes narrowed, more like a scout. They're probing for life signs. Caleb drew his sidearm. We have minutes before they realize we've slipped through the gate. Nera rose, luminous veins flaring. I can hide us here, cloak this whole ruin. Marisol's eyes widened. You can? Nera's gaze settled on the heart of the wells. At the chamber's center, a crystalline monolith, hallowed by age. My people anchored their power here. If I merge with it, I can expand my cloak across kilometers. Caleb's pulse thundered. It's dangerous. She turned to him, determination shining. But if I fail, if I lose control, I can bring this ruin down on us all. I have to try. Caleb knelt before her. I trust you. Nera pressed a hand to the monolith. Tendrils of tachyon energy snaked from her skin into the crystal. The ground quaked. Light surged across the basin, and the ancient structures hummed back to life above. The scout ship limped through the atmosphere, its sensors blind to the hidden sanctuary below. In the basin, energy radiated outward, weaving a cocoon of light that shimmered beyond the ruin's edges. Nera collapsed to her knees, drained but triumphant. It's done, she whispered. They won't see us. Caleb knelt beside her, cradling her head. You did it. Dr. Chen and Aurora hurried over, relief on their faces. Incredible. Marisol breathed. You saved us all. Nera's obsidian eyes flicked to Caleb. Why do you stay with me? He smiled, brushing tachyon-lit hair from her face. Because you're not just the power you wield. You're Nera Valley's friend, ally, and my home. Nera's lips curved into a genuine smile for the first time in a long while. She leaned into his embrace, safe in the sanctuary of her people's legacy and in the promise of a future where she would choose her own fate. Above, the sable Carter's shadows lay silent once more. Within the ruins of Calrin, a new alliance was forged, human, alien, and android, united by trust and by the shared conviction that even the greatest power means nothing without the freedom to choose how to use it.